The illusionary nature of reality is an idea that has fascinated philosophers, mystics, and scientists alike for millennia. From Plato's Allegory of the cave to modern simulations theory, thinkers across disciplines have pondered whether what we perceive as reality is merely a construct, a shadow of something truer or more profound. In this video, I will explore the illusionary aspects of reality through multiple lenses: philosophical, psychological, and scientific. By doing so, we will see that the world we experience might not be as solid or as objectively real as we often assume, and that this illusion may, in fact, hold the key to deeper insights about existence. Philosophical perspectives. The nature of perception and representation. Philosophy, especially in its metaphysical domains, has often questioned the very fabric of reality. Plato's Allegory of the cave, for instance, offers a vivid metaphor of people mistaking shadows on the wall for reality. In this allegory, prisoners confined to a cave see shadows cast by objects they cannot directly perceive, and these shadows become their reality. The moment one of them escapes and sees the sun, they realize that the shadows were merely representations of something much more significant, the true objects of reality. In a similar way, we could ask whether our own perception of the world is akin to these shadows. Are we trapped in a limited, illusionary version of reality, with a deeper, perhaps metaphysical truth just beyond our reach? In Eastern philosophy, particularly in Hinduism and Buddhism, there is a profound exploration of the illusionary nature of the world. The concept of Maya in Hinduism refers to the world as an illusion that veils the true divine reality of Brahman. In Buddhism too, the notion of sunyata, emptiness, points to the idea that things do not have intrinsic independent existence. What we perceive as solid, lasting, and independent is in fact interdependent, constantly changing and contingent. This idea suggests that our experience of reality is fundamentally shaped by ignorance of its true nature. Descartes, the father of modern philosophy, grappled with similar concerns in his famous dictum, cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. His method of radical doubt led him to question whether anything could be known with certainty beyond the fact of his own consciousness. His fear of being deceived by an evil demon, a force that could fabricate his entire sensory world, illustrates a profound skepticism about the reality of external experience. This echoes modern discussions about whether we could be living in a simulation, a scenario in which everything we perceive is artificially constructed. Psychological perspectives. The mind as a lens. If reality is mediated by our senses and interpreted by our brains, then the question arises: to what extent is our experience of reality shaped by the mind itself? Cognitive psychology tells us that perception is not a passive reception of the world, but an active construction. Our brain constantly processes sensory information, filling in gaps and filtering out what it deems irrelevant. This process of construction is so seamless that we rarely notice it, but its effects are profound. Consider optical illusions, which demonstrate the brain's tendency to interpret ambiguous information in ways that do not necessarily reflect the external world. Even when we are aware of an illusion, we cannot help but see it. This suggests that what we experience as reality is at least partially determined by the mind's interpretative framework. Furthermore, the phenomenon of hallucinations or dreams reveals the mind's capacity to generate entirely convincing realities internally, without any external input. In a more subtle sense, our psychological frameworks, beliefs, emotions, and past experiences further distort or shape our perception of reality. A person suffering from anxiety or depression, for instance, might see the world through a lens of negativity, perceiving neutral events as threats or failures. The reality they experience is vastly different from that of a person who is emotionally healthy. Thus, the psychological state of an individual can significantly alter their experience of reality, reinforcing the notion that reality is, at least in part, an illusion constructed by the mind. Scientific perspectives, the quantum world and reality. When we move to the domain of science, the illusionary nature of reality becomes even more striking, particularly in the context of quantum mechanics. At the quantum level, the classical Newtonian view of a deterministic solid world falls apart. Subatomic particles, such as electrons, do not exist in definite states until they are observed. This phenomenon, famously demonstrated in the double-slit experiment, shows that particles behave like both waves and particles, depending on how they are measured. This has led to the interpretation that observation, conscious interaction with reality, somehow collapses possibilities into a single, observed outcome. Before observation, the particle exists in a superposition of multiple potential states. Thus, reality at this fundamental level is not fixed, but fluid and dependent upon observation. Even more mind-bending is the concept of entanglement, where two particles, regardless of the distance between them, remain connected in such a way that the state of one instantaneously affects the state of the other. This non-locality defies our classical understanding of space and time, suggesting that reality is far stranger and more interconnected than we typically perceive. Moreover, the holographic principle in physics posits that the entire universe can be seen as a two-dimensional information structure painted on the cosmological horizon, from which the three-dimensional experience of reality emerges. In this model, our lived experience is something like a hologram, an image that appears three-dimensional but is actually encoded on a two-dimensional surface. If this theory holds true, it adds another layer to the illusion of reality, suggesting that the very structure of the universe is not as it appears. Conclusion: the illusion of solidity. Reality as we experience it is undoubtedly convincing. We rely on our senses, our perceptions, and our consciousness to navigate a world that appears stable and continuous. However, the more deeply we probe into the nature of reality, through philosophy, psychology, and science, the more it seems that this stability is illusory. What we take for granted as real is often a construct, a shadow of something deeper and more fundamental. In a philosophical sense, our perceptions may be mere representations, incomplete reflections of a larger, more profound truth. Psychologically, our minds are active agents in the creation of reality, filtering and shaping what we perceive. And scientifically, at the most fundamental levels, reality seems to dissolve into probabilities, uncertainties, and interconnections that defy our everyday intuitions. Ultimately, acknowledging the illusionary nature of reality invites us to remain humble about what we know and experience. It opens the door to deeper exploration, allowing us to question not only the nature of the external world, but also the frameworks through which we engage with it. Reality may be an illusion, but within this illusion lies the potential for profound understanding and transcendence. Subscribe